Great day, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the Strategic Possibilities Show, where we discuss success and growth to help you launch potential in your personal and professional life. My name is Emmett Ferguson, and I am your host. And today I am here with my good friend William Gant, and he is an entrepreneur. He owns a variety of those extremely popular escape rooms, and he's been traveling around the world. He's lived in Shanghai, China for a little bit, and you probably even speak more Chinese than I do, which is fantastic for you. Can you share a little bit about, for the audience listening, some of the entrepreneurs out there and people that want to get into business, a little bit about your journey into becoming an entrepreneur and, creating a business such as Escape Room, because those are popular.
Absolutely. And Emmett, I really appreciate you allowing me a chance to speak with you today and be online. Like you said, my name is William Gant. I come from a pretty good background with a military family. So, that kind of nomadic style of taking risk, moving around and being adventurous is kind of in my blood, which I think has definitely been a huge reason of why this has been so natural for me. But, interestingly enough, this was never, when you're studying and you're doing everything to try to figure out what you want to be and who you are, I would say that entrepreneurialism and just being an entrepreneur was never really, wasn't what I was planning on. And honestly, it just kind of, from the networking, from the experience, and then all of a sudden you kind of stop and look back and go, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is what feels good and comfortable. So ultimately my journey was starting off as being into languages. I speak Mandarin, I speak French. My mother is French, and I always had this desire to use my languages. So growing up, it was taking Chinese in high school, wanting to do more, going to college at James Madison University for marketing, for political science, focusing on China, Sino-American relations. That was always was sexy and fun to do that, to wanting to be a part of something like the State Department. And then moved over to Shanghai after I graduated, and it was just amazing. The hustle, the amount of work that goes in. I think if I can stress to anybody, it was just, please, you got to travel, you got to get out. You've got to go somewhere where it's a huge financial district. It's so much, depending on what you're doing, just get out and do something, be it a large American city or, but leave before it makes you too hard, right, is what they always say. So yeah, went over to China. I had met my current business partner there, and she's all focused on pretty much finalizing her master's in entrepreneurship. So connecting, building that relationship, building all these friendships over the years is just so necessary. So yeah, ultimately I would move back from China to the US. Thought I was going to kind of stay focused on the more government route, and then approached with an opportunity at random. My business partner said, hey, I've opened up an escape room. And I had done one in China, and I felt pretty much like this was one of the coolest ideas of bringing either a corporation together or just a group of people. And although there are many varieties of escape rooms, so there are some that are more catered for professionalist business and some that are more, fun. But she had opened one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and said, look, I'm trying to expand here to down south. And ultimately it was a decision between, do I take a risk? Do I go for this opportunity that, no one knows what's going to happen? Or do I just wait? Do I just keep working my day-to-day job, hoping that I can finally get this government job? They wanted me to wait 10 months and I just couldn't do it. I thought, there aren't any bad decisions. There are only different routes. And it was pretty much my role model, my father, who told me that. And from that day on, I said, you're right. As long as we don't regret anything, you can't be wrong. So picked up, moved down south, and ultimately we opened an escape room in Fort Myers, Florida. Did that for about a year, 10 months. And I necessarily wasn't an owner. I was just kind of helping up building that foundation, the marketing, the branding, And then I just couldn't see myself doing anything else. Weirdly enough, we were ready to expand again pretty quickly. So my business partner and I took a trip to the Pacific Northwest, visited the city of Wenatchee, Washington, visited Leavenworth, Washington, huge tourist town, and just, fell in love with the mountains, the people. There was a huge demand for indoor recreational activities that there weren't any. And again, call it, maybe being a nomad or just the drive of saying, the risk, which has driven us pretty much to make most of our decisions. It was like, hey, let's just pick up and go. So 2 months later, we got in a U-Haul, drove to Wenatchee, Washington, brought everything with us. 4 months after arriving, opened Escape Tactics LLC in Washington. And we've been open for 2 years now, actually currently expanding to Leavenworth, opening a new location. And everything has just been from, unexpected, taking that step forward that you don't know what's going to happen, realizing that being scared is a little bit okay, but being smart about it, right? Not being just closing your eyes blindly going for it, but acknowledging that there's risk to it, but don't be scared, do it. As long as you remember that there's no wrong choice, that it could just be a different path. And as long as you don't regret it, things are going to be okay.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. And, I got so much out of it. There's a lot of points, you talked about the importance of relationships and, how you formed those in school and in Shanghai, China, which I think is absolutely amazing, and that they were able to carry over here. Plus, the concept of travel and taking that step out of your comfort zone. And on one hand, on this final point was, I thought it was great how you were able to leverage marketing, what you studied in school, and be able to carry that over into your business. Because I feel like in the internet marketing world, there's a lot of discussion about whether college is a good idea or bad, or not the internet marketing world, but when you do research on LinkedIn, there's discussions all the time about whether college is a good idea or a bad idea. And I think it's an amazing story that, you have this unique story where you actually use your college education, marketing, and were able to carry that into your business. Can you talk a little bit more about what you did learn in college and how you were able to, put some of those ideas into action?
Absolutely. And I think that's really interesting because I've read a lot of professional blogs, text recently about that. People are always saying you don't need it. Okay. So ultimately, we always say that the experience that you have in life, let's say the street smarts and what you do, are more important. I don't think necessarily so. So when I went to school, I did language. So there's no doubt that my outgoingness, communication, positivity, and things like that, clearly that comes from both nature and nurture growing up, but confidence, taking courses on, speaking, communication, being okay with just initiating conversation stems definitely from my language skills, being confident to go out of my way. So learning marketing, huge fan of pretty much being able to take data and kind of turn those into results. But there's no doubt that what I learned in school is a huge factor in where I am today. And I say that because even taking the political science route, you learn about government. You learn about, honestly, how to start a business without even realizing it necessarily. So even if it's not a finance course or, something specific on building making a business plan or something like that, the marketing courses were absolutely necessary to me understanding how to deal with clients on a day-to-day basis, on what are goods, how to sell them, how to market yourself, how to create a brand. I would be having to sit there and teach myself all those things. So they're absolutely necessary to really jumpstart yourself years by getting that experience from professionals who can help you. I would say that not all courses necessarily, but ultimately, if you choose a route that you're on. So it's true. I have complete faith in the fact that because I took a marketing course, because I took Sino-American relations, and then that made me want to learn Chinese business, specifically both Chinese business and the language. I do so much now that I'm just thankful for having had opportunities to to sit down, have business meetings. It opens opportunities. There's no doubt that it opens opportunities. And now pretty much I handle all the marketing, all the web development, the design, the PR, the networking for our business. Jessica runs the accounting. She's pretty much the initial puzzler, and all of our back end. And we wouldn't be able to only do it by just she and I to do everything in-house, her with the accounting, me with the marketing, if we didn't do that because of school. And thankfully, she's doing her master's at Oklahoma State University, finishing that up. And because of her education, we are able to save thousands of dollars by doing it ourselves.
Nice. Nice. And I got a few things from that. On one hand, I do want to say, I have worked with you before on some other projects in the past, and I did notice that, your marketing plans were very, very well planned, very in-depth.
Thank you.
And I think that ties in well, maybe on one hand, that's like an individual skill where, that might be your like hidden talent.
Right.
How did you decide to maybe bring that into marketing? Or, some people go into college and they don't know that they want to do marketing. They don't have that drive to travel to China and learn Mandarin. How did you come up with that to help anybody that's listening that hasn't been to college or is considering it?
Right. I and I'll bring in a couple of good friends, probably the best friends that I have that you were familiar with Daniel Quintana. So I definitely military background, having moved, I lived in Paris, I lived in Virginia, I was born in Hawaii. My siblings were born in Germany. We were Air Force, we moved around a lot. My father was a role model. He was a poli-sci major as well, journalist, language speaker. I wanted to follow in his footsteps, to learn Chinese. But it was that. I think you just got to be not afraid to go and do things. And pretty much, I had no idea I was going to do marketing. Like, there was no way I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm going to do. When I took a marketing course, it was mostly because it was a requisite for my Chinese business minor. Marketing was something that we all thought we could do, right? So if you've ever bought or sold anything on eBay, you're a marketer, right? You understand the need, the desire, you understand price points. Everyone always makes that joke like, oh, I'm a marketer too. Great. When I moved to China, and I moved because I had language skills, I found a great opportunity with a company at the time to do that. I met pretty much the two people who are still with me on a day-to-day basis, that we communicate, that we pretty much have helped each other grow and develop as professionals and personally. And we lived together in China. We all worked for the same company at the time. And specifically this gentleman, Samba, was kind of like the guru of IT and web development. And I was doing program management. Daniel was doing marketing. And it was there were nights where we'd come back and just sit together, and we were working like 70 hours a week, just working. We knew we wanted to do more. We were in this fast-paced Shanghai culture of 70-hour work weeks. Like, this is normal, Later, when I get back to the States, it would almost be slightly disappointing, because I was looking around at people in Northern Virginia when I got home, and, they were working these 9-to-5 jobs, coming home, partying. And I was thinking like, well, what do you want to do? Like, don't you have desires and dreams? And it was always like, nah, I'm happy with where I'm at. And it was so confusing to me, because being in a fast-paced city like that. So I didn't know I was going to do marketing when I took marketing. It was actually just a requirement. But being with Sambat and Daniel, working on additional projects, we had built like a website to do like Sambat was pretty much the first person who ever helped me build my hookah delivery service in Shanghai website. And it was kind of a fun little project. And I saw that and I thought, holy crap, that is so cool. Being able to track analytics, seeing how people come to the site, knowing that this is so fun. And then pretty much during the 2 years I was there, working with the company, we did that. On the back at night, we'd sit down, we'd talk computer talk, we would take coding courses, all three of us. It was something that was like interesting, social media marketing, just knowing how to brand yourself. It was additional projects that we'd do after work. And then all of a sudden when I came back, came back to the States in the end of 2014, I thought, okay, I could do this. And I started just doing side projects. People were like, hey, I need a website for my catering business. And I was like, perfect. I know exactly how to develop a general site, and I was doing it on the side. And then it just became like 3 years of, okay, well, I'm actually quite proficient at generally WordPress sites, and it's all understandable. And then you take your Google Analytics certification courses, and then you take your AdWords courses, and then suddenly it's like, this is cool. And then it became a profession. So it became almost like an additional job, but there was no way that I knew that I was going to do that in college. But it's just amazing. And that just goes back to the people you meet and not giving up. You know, if you were working 9 to 5 and that's it, you're this isn't for you, you know? And I think that's a big lesson I learned, is if you don't come home and think, let's do something, like let's start a project, and that doesn't make it exciting and turn you on to do business, it's not for you. But if you are that person, you got it. Do it. Please don't waste that.
Man, that's amazing. And I really liked the part that you shared. You know, earlier you were talking about your story and you talked a little bit about how you got started in the business. And I think what you really captured just now, what you were saying, is all the hard work that went in before it, because usually when we hear stories of people, you know, having some level of success or, you know, building up their businesses, they don't really share that in depth where, you know, okay, it was this very significant moment where you were working 70 hours a week just to, you know, learn and study, and, you know, these partnerships that you built in a foreign country. I mean, I feel like those are very significant moments that we don't hear about often enough, and that hard work that goes into it. So thanks so much for sharing that. And when it comes to mentors, you know, you talked about your dad and how he was a huge mentor for you. Was it like, you know, in terms of that relationship, was it like, okay, you know, I'm taking notes about how to be a business person, or, you know, did you just like observe him in business meetings, or what was that like?
Yeah, you know, so I'll give credit to both myself and my business partner. Her name is Jessica Brenner, and I mean, she's the one who made me want to do business. Not necessarily made me want to, kind of gave me an opportunity for me to want to do something different. She had the skill set and the ideas, and I was really, you know, maybe putting myself modestly, I was initially the ride along to say, hey, I've got this other particular set of skills. You know, the foundation ultimately for an escape room, and in our escape room, for those who maybe are listening or yourself who've done one, you know, some people say, yeah, it was fun. I did like a horror themed, I did this. You know, we really focus more on the professional development. I would say about 30% of our clients are corporations. We do have an initial theme, but it is more first generation lock and key professional. So like our foundation is family and team building. My family is very close to me. Team building is essential for anybody. Don't pretend like you can do 4 different things. Like, great. I'm glad that you can do, you know, 4 different things all mediocrely, right? Because you can, but if you have one person on who can do that thing really well, you do that. Don't, you know, that's my life lesson, I think, was don't pretend like you can handle it all yourself, because you'll go farther with a team. So she had the ideas, and pretty much it was the idea that like, hey, I could do this, and then eventually we brought our own talents to the part. You know, my father was more military. He was more, it was the character, and of course my mother, we're all very close as a family, but it was the fact that it was like the language, the travel, the confidence, the speech. You know, he could hold himself up correctly, the communication, the jokester, you know, it was everything that you wanted to be, kind of being like the jack of all trades at a party, you know, and you could always calm the crowd. And that was exciting, because you wanted to have that personality. And then of course, I mean, in terms of role model, it's because of what he did. He studied, he was military. It was beautiful. I wanted to do Sino-American relations. I wanted to join the State Department, but you know, there's a chance in your life where I think we've all had one or multiple decisions we've had to make that you just make them. For me, it was like, hey, am I going to leave Virginia and go open an escape room? Cool. Okay. And then I'm in Florida. Hey, am I going to leave Florida and go to Washington State?
Right.
Go escape room? You know, are you scared? Yeah. But are you excited? Yes, even more. And just do it, man. But you got to, again, like I said, just make it sure you're not, you know, hurting anybody or doing anything wrong necessarily. And the decision becomes way easier. But yeah, I was able to just find, from networking, from being overseas, I met my business partner when we were doing an internship together 7 years ago at the same company in Shanghai in the financial tower in Pudong, and then like years later, she would just be like, hey, I know you do marketing. I know that you're this. Did you want to just like come together? And it was just perfect timing. And then, of course, with my experience with Samba and Daniel, it kind of built up to this opportunity. So the people you meet and the people, like you were saying, like, those memorable moments. Yeah, I was sitting in a room with 2 other people at 11 o'clock at night, coding away, laughing. Those months and years are things that we need to cherish. And man, the people I know now and work with are only the people that I met overseas by traveling, by networking, by spending evenings doing this or that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Remarkable. And looking at the relationships over time and the skills that you built, earlier you were talking about, and this is just to maybe get some practical advice, maybe share like a marketing tip if that's cool. So you were saying how, you moved from Florida, you already had a business and moved over to Washington because you realized that that there was potential market. There was a need for indoor recreation. So
Right.
How did you come to the conclusion that, what sort of research did you do, or what tools did you use to come to that conclusion that, Washington?
And I think that stems from like also building your business plan, right? So business plans are kind of those funny things where people think that they have to be like, there's definitely a formula. It's understandable, but don't get too wild with it. You can find all sorts of templates or whatever, but also the most simplest is just acknowledging, a set of points and then just writing it out and making sure it makes sense. So for marketing wise, in the Seattle area, let's say the greater Seattle area, there are 7. I mean, if we're talking just generally in that area, 7 escape rooms, just in that area. And pretty much in the central Washington area, within a 2-hour radius, there aren't any escape rooms. Now, of course, the population's way less, right? So let's say the current city I'm in the greater Wenatchee Valley, maybe we're pushing 100,000. But there's huge tourism to Leavenworth. There's constant traveling through the state because from, let's say, one side, Spokane to Seattle or vice versa, you cross the entire state. Now, Wenatchee's dead center in the state of Washington. So taking those factors, you look and say, well, that's not a lot of people in the city. Okay, perfect. But, if you have a product that you're servicing people on a multiple occasions by, having them do one or both of your room scenarios, or if you have multiple from the 300,000 to 400,000 tourists that come a month to Leavenworth, yeah, it's an incredible number, from just in general, return customers, travelers, being one of the only activities that you can do indoors that doesn't involve food or alcohol, there's a chance. That's a risk I'm willing to take. So the tools would be things like going on Quora, looking up searches, figuring out how often or how many activities are in the greater area, how many families are there. We're talking medium income. The escape room is not it's definitely a luxury item. On average, the costs can be $28. We only have 2 opportunities. So we provide a great product. We have a 5-star rating. We're proud that our customer service is excellent. So again, if you do have a great product, sometimes you don't need all the traffic. Sometimes you can rely on building a brand, building a strong word of mouth. And that's really what this valley is. So looking up medium household income, looking up pretty much demographics, age, sex, gender, income, things like that. So acknowledging that, let's say the city had medium household income of like 50,000, not really high. Clearly it's one of, central Washington, but it's still doable for somebody to want to do an activity, once every 6 months to pay $56 to go with your couple or friend, that's not too much to ask. And so ultimately pulling in all that data, acknowledging that there's probably about 85% of the population that's between the ages of 14 to 60, from just in general, looking at the number of Facebook users who are tech savvy, who might be gamers, looking into the industry and acknowledging like how many escape rooms, all those factors came into play. So you have to sometimes, either from your own experience, understand that data. Some people are don't really know where to start. But for us, it looked good. If there's enough data where we can sit there and say, look, if we can just pull in, and then of course, again, projecting, getting out an Excel sheet file to just pull up data to sit there and say, how much will we have to fill our capacity to break even? Does that look even remotely feasible? You know, does it sound crazy? And it wasn't. We currently we're open 7 days a week, by the way. You know, I think part of that mentality of hustling is we're open 7 days a week. We're open from 1 to 9:30, except on Mondays and Tuesdays, but we're always available. I'm always on call. I'm either working building our new escape room in Leavenworth as we're growing, and then running back to Wenatchee, which is approximately 30 minutes away, to run rooms. There are 3 of us, staff members, and I think that's it. You just got to do until you make it, you know? So, yeah. So we acknowledged that it was good enough for us. We realized we just needed to fit approximately 200 people to break even, and we knew our numbers. We were confident with those, and now we do it. And now we make it. It was a great choice. But yeah, there's some research, but there's also, you know, not putting yourself down, knowing that you're going to hit it. Just be confident. Tell yourself you're going to do it, and you most likely will.
And I think this ties back also to that story of, you know, just putting in the legwork that you were sharing about earlier, you know, coming back to that 70-hour week, and now you're still pushing forward. And I mean, thanks so much for sharing those tools and those ideas. I mean, that was like how to open an escape room or how to research escape rooms for dummies. I mean, that was like so much wonderful advice, you know, the tools, the Quora, and, you know, being able to research the areas and knowing about, you know, what the tourism is like. I mean, that's incredible research. And I think this comes down to, you know, after an audience has already heard that, it comes down to really just diving in and doing it. Yet, even though, you know, some people have the tools, and, you know, I fall into this trap sometimes, you know, when I know the tools, when I have the ideas, it's just, I don't put it into action. You know, what's something that you think that you might do differently than other people that gets you into that momentum through the day to, like, you know, take the action to get the motivation to continue building your business even further? What's something that you think you do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. I mean, the thing is, like, it's like that for any business. You're going to research the city, and you're going to research to make sure it makes sense. Like, you know, you're going to look at the other businesses in the area. Like, this valley could never withhold another escape. Like, it just wouldn't work. We were here because we knew we could do it, because we have the drive to do it. And no one is here because of that reason. So sometimes you just got to find a really interesting niche that you can acquire. And so we did. And then, of course, then you got to be good at what you do. Like, you absolutely have to be good at what you do. You can't just open an escape. And I love this. For some reason, people in this industry go, well, anybody can open an escape room, or my friend owns one. And that's great. But you need to still be really good, especially in areas like this. So that's always kind of like my laughing point when everyone says, well, like, my grandmother loves this, we can't wait. I'm like, cool, but we're really good at what we do. And so in terms of difference in motivation, it's that I want to grow. I want to grow so fast. I want to, when people say, like, oh, within 3 to 5 years, you know, a business doesn't really make a profit. We were profitable after a year and a half. Why? Because we work 7 days a week. Because we're open 1 to 9:30. Because if I need to be on call at 9:30, I'll go and I'll work till 11. I'll be up at 7 a.m. and I'll work till 11. I will do that because that's what happens. That's what you need to do, especially if you're starting a business. And you hear all the time people go, well, you know, but we do whatever it takes. Like, it's not even 2 years. In July, it'll be 2 years that we're open, and we're already expanding to a new location because Jessica and I, this is it. As you were saying before, is it experience from China, you know, that we're so used to it? For me, I can say, yeah, I can say this was comfortable. It was expected of me. And I feel like I expect it of myself now. Do I say that you have to? I don't know. I don't know what you want to do, but I just know that personally, that's how I work. I work best when I'm working, when I can go home and I can fall asleep and go, yeah, I did it. You know, I did everything I wanted to do. Then that's great. But if you go home and you think that you regretted something that you should have done, you need to change your mindset. So yeah, it's a lot of stress. Yeah, it's a lot of fear. I don't doubt that, but I would rather be in a place I want to be in 3 to 4 years rather than wait 5 years. And again, put more in. Just do it.
Yeah. And just one final question. You have a little bit more time for one more question before we wrap?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And I totally appreciate you being on here. I'm gaining so much from this. So, you've mentioned relationships in your business partnership a few times. And, just out of curiosity, because you also mentioned, you can't do 4 things, or if you do, good for you, but, you need people to grow. How do you separate what you do in terms of that professional business relationship? How do you separate like what you do to make sure that the overall picture that is being done, but that, you're not stepping on other people's toes? Like, how do you have a good professional relationship in that sense? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It helps when you're the boss, because then you don't step on anybody's toes except for, let's say, the other bosses. That is communication to a T. That's communication at its finest. It's being absolutely honest right off the bat with your partners, business partners, work associates, just acknowledging what do you guys do best, and setting making sure right off the bat what you're going to do, and that you trust each other. We wouldn't be in this position if I didn't trust my business partner, and vice versa. Like, you just have to. Like, when somebody says it's going to get done, you just say perfect, and maybe call it luck. With the people I've been involved with in my life, with Daniel Samba, with everybody like that. But you trust somebody and you talk about what your roles are. Clearly we have cross roles, like we can both do certain things. She's a great web developer as well, but we manage that time well and acknowledge what we need to do. And so be honest, trust, and communicate. Set those principles way early, or else they will catch up, and it will, it could harm you, either slow you down or cause, internal conflict or something. But that's the biggest thing I would stress is, it's easy because we've talked about it. We continue to talk about it. We talk about it once a month, just acknowledging what we've done. We inform each other on a day-to-day basis, especially like an escape room. You have to communicate with your team to do it. Like that, there's no doubt about it. So on a day-to-day basis, we acknowledge what we're doing, what we've accomplished. We're always informed. We both know what's going on, but we both don't do the work. We just each do our own thing. And that's just pretty much it. Awesome. So much great things to learn from this podcast, I think. And, you have such a great story. And what I really like about this is, that the audience is able to see and hear about the story from, what I think is the very beginning of what you're looking to achieve with your escape rooms and everything. It's such a great story to hear about the legwork that's going in and all of that. So thank you so much for being on this podcast. And, could you just share one more time about your escape room, like the location, whatever you want to say about it? So we currently, under our entity, we own a Bavarian 1700s castle-themed escape room in Wenatchee, Washington, known as the Apple capital of the world, actually, which is just amazing. Imagine coming into a beautiful mountainous town of apple, of orchards and cherry trees and pears, and a great community of people who are very supportive of local business, who love having new things, who are innovative at the same time. It's a great technological area. At one point, this was the #1 city to pretty much bit mine, because our electricity is pretty much like the second cheapest place to live, because everything is run on hydro dams. So the city was beautiful. We chose this location. We're expanding to Leavenworth, Washington, because after 2 years, we hold incredible standing. We built quite a following. It takes time, but work at it, but yeah, so that's where we are today. And, tomorrow, we never know. Tomorrow's another day. We're looking to have 2 rooms. We'll be the first one in the area. And in the last 5 years, I used to live in China. I moved to Florida, moved to South Carolina, moved to Florida, moved to Wenatchee. And that was just in 4 years. So I can't imagine what the next 4 years are going to hold. Awesome. It'll hold great things. I can feel it. I know it. I can hear it in your voice and everything that you're working on. What was the name of your escape room again? And what's the website? It's called Escape Tactics LLC, and then you can find us easily at escaperoomwenatchee.com. So Wenatchee spelled WENATCHEE. So we're just alternatively known as escaperoomwenatchee.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for everything. Thanks for taking the time to do this podcast with me. And for everyone else, have a wonderful day. And Will?
I think I could talk about what I do all day. And I think if you don't feel like that, do something different. But if you do, then you have it and don't waste it.
Wonderful. Be passionate about what you're doing, and it sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody.